my two-layered glove. Anyways, this, and the camera won't focus on it, of course. The camera won't focus on it, of course. But it's bird's nest fungus. This is the bird's nest fungus. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. All I know is that it is relatively common in the area of the PNW that I live in. They are Ascomyces and disperse their spores by water from the rain dropping into the quote-unquote nest, shooting the quote-unquote spore eggs out of the nest and onto the ground, hopefully onto another stick, where it can grow another mushroom. They grow in the fall off of sticks on the ground and in relatively large clusters. They're not edible to my knowledge, and even if they were, they're so small, why would you want to eat them anyway? Huge. Cat's tongue. This is a cat's tongue, or Pseudohydnum gelatinosum. It's a jelly fungus, so it's edible raw, but it's not eaten very much because it doesn't have a very good taste. It just tastes very bland. But some people do dry it and then rehydrate it in flavored water, like fruit water or stuff like that, and turn it into little gummies. It can also be used as a binder for paint, but that and turning it into gummies are its only two uses. It's called cat's tongue because on the underside of the cap it has teeth that when you brush your finger across them, it resembles the feel of a cat's tongue. And its teeth underneath the cap is how it disperses the spores, making it a basidiomycete, not a ascomycete. They're found growing through fall and into winter off of dead wood. Yeah. I'm already filming, yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of pig here. It's huge. This is the pig's ear fungus, or Gomphis clavatus. It's a rather rare mushroom to find in some areas, though in the PNW, specifically in the late fall, it's found quite commonly. It's edible but has a rather bland taste. I personally don't like it, but I know that some people really do. It's very easy to identify as it grows in a layered formation in very tight bundles, the underside of it being purple and veiny, and the top side of it is tan or beige in color. Oh yeah, there's more. That was a pretty. Oh, that's neat. It's not fully parasitized. This is a lobster mushroom, a parasitized Russula brevis. It's parasitized with Hypomyces lactiform, which is what gives it that orange color and makes it smell and taste like lobster. It's also called lobster mushroom because in some cases it's shaped like a lobster claw. That's relatively rare that does happen. They're also a very good edible mushroom that grow in the late summer to fall. They're also a very easy mushroom to identify as they're the only mushroom that is as bright color of an orange as they are. You will not find any other mushrooms that are that bright color of an orange with that weird of a shape most times that aren't a lobster mushroom. So you have absolutely no worry to accidentally get yourself poisoned when picking lobster mushrooms. They also smell highly like seafood, and even more so if they're rotten. But if they're rotten, you shouldn't eat them. So nice winter chanterelles. It's a winter chanterelle, aka Craterellus tubiformis. They are a very good edible mushroom that, as the name suggests, grow in the wintertime. They're very easy to identify as they have decurrent vein-like false gills that are white and have a bit of white going down the stem from the top of the cap. They also have a hole in the middle of their cap, which is very distinctive for telling what they are. The stems themselves are yellow and hollow, though in some cases it is hard to tell that they are hollow, but when you rip them apart, if pine needles are stuck in the middle of the stems, then they are most likely and obviously hollow. The caps themselves are more of a like umbrella-esque shape, again with the hole in the middle that is hollow, and warning for if you cook them, pine needles will get stuck in them, so you want to make sure that you clean them rather thoroughly. They're very hearty mushrooms and go best in soups and stews rather than any other type of dish that you may think to cook them with.
And to follow up the winter chanterelle, we have golden chanterelles. So the golden chanterelles, Cantharellus formosus. They're quite tough still. Still pretty good, but very small. Got a rose comb on the cap there. Also, very good edible mushrooms.
This is a Pacific golden chanterelle, aka Cantharellus formosus, another very good edible mushroom that grows again in the late summer and into the fall and sometimes winter. They are also very easy to identify as they are bright yellow in color and rip apart like string cheese. There are a few lookalikes, but the one we have in the Pacific Northwest isn't poisonous at all. There is one on the East Coast that is poisonous, but we don't have to worry about that one here, so I'm not going to cover it. The lookalike to the Pacific golden chanterelle is a lot oranger in color, and its gills are actual gills versus veins or false gills. The lookalike is also a lot smaller than actual Pacific golden chanterelles.
Right over here, I noticed we have, you can't really see them, but what I believe is the flaming chanterelle. This is still one that I'm not too familiar with. I'm not sure about its edibility, and I'm not sure about the Latin name, but I'll put that information up on screen right now. But yeah, pretty neat find out here.
This little mushroom is known as a jelly baby or Laodea lubrica. It is a ascomycete and produces its spores through little tiny holes throughout its cap and disperses them into the wind, and the wind carries them to its next location and drops them in hopes for another one to grow. This jelly fungus, despite most, is actually not edible as it contains the same toxin found in false morels. So even though you may have been told, and I believe I even said it once in this video, that all jelly fungus are edible, they are not, because this one is not edible. It likes to grow around moss in the late fall, early winter.
Yeah. Well, orange jelly fungus, or poor man's gumdrop.
It's not poor man's gumdrop, it's witch's butter. I was wrong. I mentioned that I'm wrong later, and I realized that I was wrong, but I just wanted to say that now, that I was wrong. I'm sorry.
If I can get... Oh. It's super slippery. Or, actually, this doesn't... It might be orange witch's butter. Now that I'm looking... Yeah, it's orange witch's butter, not poor man's gumdrops. Well, my apologies. But, yeah, quite a bit of this log. There's more down there. Can't really see it, but there is. Yeah, that's a cool find. Pretty common, and it's edible. You can eat it just right off the log, but I haven't done it.
This is witch's butter, or Trimella mesenterica. It is a jelly fungus, meaning it doesn't have any distinctive stem or cap. It just is kind of a blob of gelatinous goo that grows off the side of trees. It's also edible raw, as are all jelly funguses that we know of, but it's not very much eaten as it does not have a very good or flavorful taste to it. They grow in the fall off of conifer trees and are a ascomycete, so they also disperse their spores through little tiny microscopic holes in them and disperse them through the wind in hopes that it hits another tree and grows another mushroom. Easy to identify as they are just orange jelly blobs that are growing directly off of trees, fallen logs, or stumps.
No, no, that's a club fungus. Yeah. I don't think that's a weirdly shaped chanterelle. I mean, I guess it could be. But, yeah, I'm not sure with this one. I'm pretty sure it's a club fungus. It seems like a club fungus. I don't know why or how chanterelle would be shaped like this. That's just bitten by bugs.
Not much to my knowledge is known about these mushrooms at this point, so there's not really much to talk about, though I do know that certain ones in this genus can be used for dyeing mushrooms, though I do not think any of them are edible, and they are far too rare to eat anyway. You wouldn't be able to find enough of them, at least in my case when I have found them.
I don't think so, but they're...
Sure seem like they could be. I can't remember.
Yeah. Oh, and look. Yeah.
These are saddle-shaped false morels or Gyromitra infula, as far as I know how to pronounce them. They are not edible mushrooms as most Gyromitra aren't edible due to the toxins that they have in them, and are rather easy to identify, at least down to species. I would attempt to describe how they look, but I'm not entirely sure how to do that. Most Gyromitra grow in the late summer and fall, and not very much into the winter as they tend to die relatively quickly. Gyromitras are a ascomycete and produce their spores in a puff-like motion out of basically every single part of them except for the stem. I would call it a cap, but I'm not entirely sure if that really counts as a cap, so yeah.
I'm walking, and there's a single Stropharia ambigua. Not anymore. Just one. Just one little Stropharia ambigua.
This is the questionable Stropharia, aka Stropharia ambigua. They are said to be edible, but no one really eats them, as they are also said to not taste very good at all. They're very easy to identify as the stem is white and they have a bright yellow cap. They also have white veil remnants, shaggy veil remnants around the edge of the cap that makes them even more easy to identify. They also have a textured stem to some degree that is a bit shaggy as well or scaly. And although they are not edible, they still do have use, as you can use them as a dyeing mushroom, which means you can use them to dye fabrics with, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
This is a conifer tuft, aka Hypholoma capnoides. They are an edible mushroom, but with caution, as they can look a lot like sulfur tufts in some stages, which are not necessarily a poisonous mushroom, but you definitely don't want to eat them because they can cause pretty bad gastrointestinal upset. As said before, they are edible mushrooms and relatively good edible mushrooms, but if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't pick them or shouldn't try to look for them because if you mess up, it will be very bad for you. There are key features to identify a conifer tuft from a sulfur tuft, as sulfur tufts glow under UV light, the gills will specifically, and conifer tufts do not. Conifer tufts are also more brown in color, whereas sulfur tufts are more yellow and green in color. So that's another way you can identify them. But even still, if you don't know what you're doing, you should not try to pick conifer tufts and eat them. It's
Are
not
they
a good
violet
idea.
quartz?
I don't think they're that purple. One there, one there.
Oh yeah, they might be the pungent quartz.
Check it out. Well, this is a good area.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pungent quartz or some type of quaternarius. At least only 2 though, which is disappointing.
This is a Quaternarius. To my best guess, Quaternarius salor. As far as I know how to pronounce it, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm also not entirely sure what Quaternarius this is, as I am not well enough versed with my Quaternariuses yet to confidently tell. But I do know this is most likely in the Quaternarius genus, which is a dyeing mushroom. I'm not entirely sure which dye color this one would give, though if I did have to guess what color this Quaternarius would give if you were to use it as a dyeing mushroom, I would probably say beige to light brown. It also likely isn't an edible mushroom, as most of the Quaternariuses aren't edible, and the ones that aren't very good edibles anyway.